All right, let's do this. All right. We back another Wednesday.
DJ Ham does it.
This might be risky. We in the building, as you can see. We got a full panel tonight. You know what I mean? Let's make some noise for that. So when we start the live stream, people got to trickle in and shit. So we give them a couple minutes. We're gonna pop this thing off. If you're not unmuted, how's everybody doing tonight? Everybody good? Sign,
Good, good.
sign language works. Everybody looks amazing. I appreciate y'all. You know what I mean? And this is a dope show. If you guys didn't see it already, we also uh are now on like the streaming podcast platform. So specifically Anchor, Spotify, and there's an array of others that aren't as popular, but I'm sure people use them. So it's this might be risky. I'll post it up here. And obviously with the podcast, you can listen to it as you're doing multiple things while on the YouTube. It's awesome to see us, of course, but sometimes you have to be glued to it. So we just got a couple different channels now. So we're just trying to grow. Let's make some noise for that. All right, man, let's get it started. So, first topic. We have a lot of constructs that I think hold us back in our community. Um, we have a lot of just systematic constructs. As you can, like, for instance, Planned Parenthood, right? Not to say it holds us back, but it's something that we have more prevalent where we live than others. And just certain things like that, I feel like uh kind of pigeonhole us, right? In certain ways, right? They give us these programs that kind of keep us, Section 8, and the stipulations that come with that, so on and so forth. But one thing that seems it's quite popular. It's well accepted. If you are one, people usually show you love or you get kudos or they respect it. But the question is Christianity holding the black community back? Is Christianity holding the black community back, or is it still a positive? Let me give you an example. Do you guys remember Amber Geiger?
Yeah.
That was the police officer down in Texas who walked in the guy's apartment, mistaking it for hers, and shot him dead. So she got 10 years. The judge gave her a Bible, and his brother gave her a hug.
Put him in the fucking bedroom. Get him out of here. Come
But because they were Christian, that was the Christian thing to do. That was the right thing to do, right? Because the Bible and Christianity, as we know it, says you must forgive and love everybody. So it's Christianity, and that's just an example, but it's Christianity holding the black community back. Q, we'll start with you.
I think I kind of already spoke on this at one time, but I do believe that it is, because I think in its own way, the religion itself kind of creates a certain mindset that's not necessarily moving Black people forward. I don't want to go too in depth with like how I feel about it overall, as far as like, how race relates to it, but I don't feel like it's a religion that was designed for people of color.
Well, no, go in depth. Might be risky. So what do you mean by that?
I mean, you think about Christianity, you're taught to worship Jesus, right? So what do we have as an image of Jesus Christ?
So-called white man.
Right. And then all these I don't want to throw the baby with the bathwater. I don't think the Ten Commandments in and of itself is not good or something that we can use as a tool. But when you think about a lot of the other rules attached to that, when you think about the connection to slavery, in a sense, we're basically taught to worship white people. It's not good for it's not good for us as a Black community. So it kind of keeps us kind of boxed in with our mentality.
Okay,
Kind of keeps some control on us, I feel.
got you. Pierre, I know you mentioned, a couple times that, you were, I don't want to use the word devout, but you were, no, you were deep in Catholicism. You mentioned it. It's cultural. You grew up in it. So what do you think? Is Christianity holding us back?
Um, so I think that it's two sided or multifaceted, but really two sided. When you say Christianity, yes, Catholicism is a part of Christianity,
Hmm.
but as a Black Catholic, um, it's not the same as the Black Church and Black Christianity, if that makes sense. There's a lot more routine, structure, and rituals that we practice within Catholicism that make it Catholic, right? Not that it's saying it's different than Christianity, but we also have the structures within that let us seek help, that let us do for ourselves as well as our community. Where I feel like Black Christian churches are often the churches, speaking like from a mental health aspect, pray it away. Anything you can pray away. Do whatever the Bible tells you, and you will be delivered of whatever your circumstances are. And so, in that sense, I do see that as a hindrance to the Black community overall. So, long
Hmm.
story short, yes.
Okay. Does anybody disagree with the fact that's holding us back? Thus far, we have two that say it is. Um, Aisha, what are your thoughts? You gotta unmute yourself.
I'm trying to get my thoughts together. I wouldn't say that it's holding us back. I think it sets a moral standard. Um, I think that Christianity now is more progressive than it was maybe when, my grandmother was coming up. So I don't know. I just wouldn't say that it's holding us back. And as far as like forgiveness, I mean, the way that one shows forgiveness is on them because you can forgive somebody and still have nothing to do with them. You don't have to hug them or greet them. And the example that you gave, my brother was murdered, right?
Hmm.
When I said that I forgave the guy who shot him, it was more so for me so that I didn't harbor any hatred. But I was happy that he got the amount of time that he got. So just because I forgive him doesn't mean that he should get less sentence. I mean,
Okay. Question. You say you didn't want to have hate in your heart. That always confuses me. Do you love,
do I love? Yeah, I love.
but you
But I
don't
didn't want to
hate?
be so consumed with what he did to my brother. At that time, it was more so, my brother's not here. I'm not going to focus on you. You killed my brother. I don't want that to be in my thought process. My brother's not here. I need to heal. He has two children growing up without him, and
Are
that's
you
what my focus was going to be.
okay? So you're not saying hate, but you didn't want to be every day just harping on it.
Absolutely. Or wishing bad on him. I don't honestly. I really don't care what happens to him. At this point, he was sentenced, and that's that. And but that was my way of forgiving, was just to let that go.
Okay. Is that synonymous though? Is forgiving and letting go, do those automatically go together? What you think, Slim?
Yeah, that was going to be my question because sometimes you could, can you just say, you know what, I'm done with this. I can't let this occupy my mental space. But it does. I will never I'll never forgive somebody that does something, extremely awful to me. I don't have to forgive them, but I can say I no longer want this to occupy my mental space, and I'm gonna move on from it. But I don't feel like necessarily everybody deserves forgiveness.
Hmm.
But I understand, the idea of not wanting to, let it consume your life, and alter the way that you live moving forward. But some people don't deserve forgiveness, and that's okay too.
Okay. Caddy, what are your thoughts? Is Christianity holding us back? Muted.
Yeah, I think in a sense it is. When you think about how religion was fed to us during slavery, and how we hold on to it, how we hold on to the practices, how we hold on to forgiveness associated with Christianity. We have a tendency to forgive our oppressors a lot more than white people forgive us. And so we kind of function in a culture of like extending grace to our oppressors, and I think that's a learned behavior that stems from religion and Christianity. I don't think it has to be a crutch to us, but when we talk about as a collective and how it affects us and how it keeps us from being progressive and how it keeps us from holding white people accountable for the atrocities committed against us. Yeah, I think sometimes we have a tendency to turn the other cheek because that's what was taught to us through religion versus saying, "Nah, you're going to be held accountable for what you did," and and we ain't turning the other cheek. We about to figure this out
About to turn up.
pretty much.
Okay, okay. So who else thinks that it is not holding us back?
I
Feel
I I think it. I don't think that the Christianity is holding us back. I don't think they
okay.
have enough influence.
Hmm.
Yeah, you speak in the constructs, the construct of the Christian church, of the black church of Christianity doesn't have the influence to hold us back. They don't have the influence to move us forward either, in my opinion. We've moved away from the church. So no, I don't think they're holding us back. I don't think they have the power to do so.
So if they don't have the power, then why is it that politicians they pander the churches because they know that if they connect with the church, they can gain the votes of the congregation. So I mean, the black church has a lot of influence. I think.
I think that's true, but I think that's for uh, maybe us and older.
Hmm.
Um, the majority of voters aren't under 30. So if we want to push the community forward and use the church as a tool to do so, I don't think they have the capacity to do that. They don't have the
So
outreach.
well, did you watch so guys there's like signing day, right? For all the college football players. It just happened, right? There's a couple different ones now. But every single black male that told what school he's gonna go to, before that he thanked God. He thought he thanked God, however how am I supposed to say it?
Yeah.
Every single one of them. Every single one. Right? They showed 10 in a row back to back because I was watching the Dion thing. Every single one of them thank Jesus Christ, Lord and Savior, blah, blah, blah. So what do you mean? Are you saying that the kids don't have the influence? 'Cause I would beg to differ
That's
just based on that small sample size.
what just in that response to that statement, that's a preconditioned thing to get up in front of the podium and thank God. That's just what we
People
do,
do.
right? Those kids, you could argue they don't go to church. If this is signing day on Sundays, they practicing, they training, conditioning, doing something other than going to church. More than likely, I would argue. But I think that's a
Well, high
predisposed condition to get up in front of a podium and say, "I want to thank God. I want to thank my mom." You know,
Yeah.
that's the standard. You know,
well, just to clarify, high school football is played Friday and Saturday.
I'm aware.
Okay.
I'm
I
aware.
mean, I just, for people that don't know, like there's an opportunity to go to church. And every
Yeah.
Yeah,
every black church in America got
There's
Bible study on
there's
Wednesday.
practice on no, there's practice on Sundays all the time, regardless what age group. And if
I
there's
ain't say
not practice,
practice. I said they play. They play on Friday and
yeah, they
Saturday. So
play,
there's an
but there's
opportunity.
always some kind of conditioning or something that's going to keep them from attending service.
Yeah,
I
I
think
I
just Sean's point.
I coached at a 4A school of 4,000 kids. The kids didn't do anything on Sunday, but there could be
Mhm.
some. So I don't want to say,
Yeah,
but by and large, especially in the southern states where football is huge, they do not practice on Sundays.
Now that is true. In the
that could be
southern
true.
states,
Yeah,
you're not
Yeah.
practicing on a Sunday. Now that is true.
Where
I
you
can
yeah.
say
from,
I
that.
B?
can't speak to that,
I'm
but
from South
here we
Carolina.
practice.
Yeah. Alex, so you said it is not?
I don't think Christianity is holding us back. I think um, people's inability to learn or develop their own relationship with the higher being for themselves is what holds people back. I think a lot of times people are spitting what they've and they're repeating what they've heard, what they've been accustomed to, instead of forming their own relationship with God or whatever it is that you believe in. So something as similar as people going to church every Sunday. Um, you're going there, but are you there to retain it? Are you there because it's routine, or are you there because you're actually there to fill your spirit? Are you there to, to fulfill yourself for that week, or learn something? Versus, are you just there because, well, my mom says I have to go every Sunday. This is what I'm used to. But the night before, I was over here doing X, Y, and Z. So I don't think it's holding. Christianity itself isn't holding us back. I think people's lack of personal relationship and the reasons that they choose to participate in Christianity or whatever it is what's holding people back.
Okay. Okay. I can see how that would make sense. For me, I think that it definitely teaches a lot of these tenets that are inaccurate if you read the Bible, and I think it keeps us in this perpetual, as Caddy said, constant forgiveness. Right? This give it to God. Right? I think Pierre said that. Give everything to God and He'll work it out. Right? Like the Bible doesn't say, faith without works is dead. We just ignore everything, and then it is we always love, but we don't hate, right? But the Bible says you can hate in certain instances, but like Alex said, people don't read it. You know, if you read it, it's a lot doper than what we learn in these churches, in my opinion. So I think the construct of Christianity, not necessarily the book itself, I think it does hold us back. I think it gives us a very antiquated thought process. Now, Isha, you said you needed time. We just gave you 7 minutes. Did
Yeah.
you did you wanna expound on your
I
point?
don't. I still don't believe that Christianity is holding us back. I think Christianity is what pushed us forward. Actually, I mean, the church was the cornerstone of the community once upon a time, and I think we've gotten away from that. Like I said, it sets a moral standard. Um, Christianity might not be holding us back, but traditions may.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Question on the moral standard. Are you saying that we only know moral responsibility and standard based on the Bible or based on Christianity?
I
Or
don't
will
think
we
that
know that innately?
I don't think that's the only way, but I think that the Bible it does set a moral standard.
So do you think that like a person that's agnostic or atheist will have less moral standards than somebody that goes to church or that might be Christian?
I don't think so.
So then that kind of is contrary, right?
Yeah.
I said it sets a moral standard. I said it's not the only moral standard, but it
I
sets a
think it's a
moral
reference
standard.
point for some people.
Yeah.
Um,
I
yeah,
mean, looking at all religions, it boils down to the fundamental practice of do unto others as they do unto you, or some shit like that. But like that is the fundamental teaching. So whether they're Christian or Muslim or whatever, you still see that principle show up in some way in some teaching. So no, they don't necessarily need a religion, but if that's like we can all agree that that's the commonality between everyone, agnostic, atheist, whatever.
yeah. I think if so the layman unread, that is the sentiment that you get. But in the Quran it says don't be friends with Jews or Christians. But again, people don't read it through, so they don't even know it says this shit. They just know what they think it says, right? Because it's the same prophets of the Bible. So it's interesting. I think that you're right though, Isha, because I think if you grow up in America, our tenets and what we believe in, like in God we trust, it all comes from some type of biblical context. That's where we get our moral compass from. All of our presidents are associated with Christian. I don't think we ever had like a Muslim president, but they all swear on the Bible, so on and so forth. So I think there's some truth to that.
I also wanted
So
to just speak to Isha's point in talking about like the forgiveness piece. Um, And I agree with her. Like my forgiveness and my decision to forgive someone is not for their benefit, it's for me. And whether you want to associate that with religion or not, it's for my peace of mind. And just because
Right.
I've forgiven you, that does not mean I've forgotten what you did. I'm always going to have that mental note there, but I'm forgiving you to clear up that space so that I can move forward and I don't have to sit there and consume my mind with whatever it is. And for me, I believe that things are going to come back to you, whether you believe in the universe, whatever it is. Vengeance is not mine to have. It's going to come back to you one way or another. So I'm going to free up my space and I'm going to forgive you so that I can move forward and do what I need to do.
I also think that Black people hold on to like this Jesus complex where they're just looking for a savior, right? Like, so they grab onto anything that's gonna provide hope for them, the same way they grabbed onto Obama, the same way that Black people grab onto lottery tickets, the same way. So anything that's gonna give them hope without doing the work, I think a lot of times they just gravitate to, right? Like it's easier to go to church and sit in church for 8 hours or 9 hours a day when those hours you could actually be out there, you know, doing the work. You could go out there and do the work, but a lot of times it's easier just to put hope and faith into something instead of getting out there to do it. And a lot of times it's because we're just so beat down. We don't have the energy to do anything else. So it's easier to go sit somewhere and just hope that something happens for us. It's easier to go into the corner store and play numbers than it is to put in overtime, right? Or to save your money. So I think that, you know, we grab onto this Jesus complex where we're just expecting for something to come and save us instead of actually doing the work, sticking together, doing the work, and whether that's religion or whatever it might be, but anything that provides hope, we tend to cling to.
Do you think that comes from a racial demographic or an economic standpoint?
I think both. I think both. A part of it is conditioning, and then a lot of it has to do with social economics.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think, and like you're saying, Poop, prosperity gospel is what's taught, right? Like pray, give to us, right? You'll reap it, right? Give it to God. So I think that's a fair point. Any final thoughts on the topic? Interesting.
Yeah.
I have to agree with what she's just saying right now. Like, it's so funny because during the quarantine, I kind of felt the same way. I'm like, when people were able to go to church, they could rely on their pastors or leaders to provide the spiritual work that needed to be done. And now the churches are closed. Who do you have? You got to do the work yourself now.
Got to
So
do the work.
I kind of personally felt like churches kind of enable people when it came to actually doing the spiritual work to find out like who you are, that identity piece, and you know, kind of realizing that you don't need, just my opinion, you don't necessarily need Jesus in order to be blessed or to have something come to fruition. So that's just my final thoughts on it.
Interesting. We'll definitely expound on more topics like that, but I just want to get you guys' take on it. So here's a comment that kind of leads into our next topic. Tyrone Jackson says Christians can't take vaccines because they are developed from aborted fetus cell lines. So if you research the Johnson and Johnson, it is said to have been tested and then use like fetal cells to develop their vaccine. We also know from, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Johnson and Johnson has been discontinued. I think it was only 60% effective, one shot. Motherfuckers was growing wings and all types of shit. So, but that was the rhetoric. And if you research it, there's a lot of research out there. You know what I mean? But there's also a lot of confirmation bias. So if you Google something based on what you think and type in those words, you'll get that, right? They're not shooting it down, but you know, regardless. So the next topic is, if people choose not to get the vaccine and let's say they succumb to COVID, should they be denied health care at any type of point? Maybe denied it, period, denied it somewhat, last in, if they go to the hospital. What's your thoughts? So if people do not take the vaccine, should they be denied health care at any whatever you want to, any point?
No,
Pierre.
oh, yeah.
Hold on, Brian. God damn, this your second time on the show, baby boy.
Oh, okay. I apologize.
We're gonna start with Pierre. What you think, P?
Yes, deny them health care. I don't care. Like, if you have access to preventative measures and you don't take them, why do you now get priority billing in the hospital for your acuity because now you're experiencing symptoms, but I've got a cancer patient over here, or I've got a breached birth over here, and I can't run to all of these things because I have to deal with you and your COVID. As of right now, COVID is taking precedence over these things, right? I have to isolate my COVID patients. I have to get respirators and all these things that we don't have. And a good majority, I want to say like 75 or 80% of our hospitalized patients are unvaccinated COVID. Like, you got it because you're unvaccinated. So, yeah, no, I would deny healthcare. I mean, I would deny it because, again, you made an adult decision to forego preventative measures. Now you must deal.
And
Now you must
the
die.
point, P, you said
Absolutely.
they well, real quick. So they got it because they didn't get vaccinated, or they're that sick because they didn't get vaccinated.
They're that sick. Like,
Okay.
the science shows, right? Like, you can get
Yeah.
COVID more than once. You can get COVID with the vaccine. The vaccine was never taught or never sold as um, a cure, right? It's not going to prevent you from getting it. It's going to lessen your symptoms.
Well, they did. Well, Dr.
They,
Fauci did say that though.
yeah, they did
Specifically,
initially say.
that as soon as you get the vaccine, you can walk
Mhm.
mask free, even in contact with somebody that is positive, and you would be 100%, well, 99% fine. And then he backtracked his story, right? So then when the
Even
CEO,
but fine is not cured.
no, but
Fine
fine
is
means
effective. Go
right. So
ahead.
if
I'm
they're
listening.
saying
Let me
that
hear.
you're not, so if they're saying like, nope, you'll be fine, you're not. His statement was you weren't going to contract it and you'd be fine. You wouldn't get sick. You don't have to worry about it anymore. All you have to do to get the vaccine, and then you're good to go. Right. That was what was being sold months ago. And
Mhm.
now the CEO of Pfizer just came out and said, if you have 2 doses of COVID, you're going to have very limited protection. If you have 3 doses of COVID, the shots and the booster, you're going to have reasonable protection. However, if you get the vaccine that's going to be out in March, then only then you'll be good, right? We're sold that we only
Mhm.
need 2 vaccines before.
Mhm.
So, I think what it is, it's okay to say you don't know. Like, hey, listen, we don't know. We're trying to figure it out. We need to try this so we could see what we're doing. But we were sold a lot, and you were too, and you believe, and that's okay.
But I also, like, let's not act like science is static. Like, I can't just say it's going to be this way today. We change our flu vaccines every year. We actually change our flu
Right.
vaccines 2 to 3 times in one season.
And it's due to
So the flu
administration.
vaccine, if you get the earlier you get it, you really shouldn't get the flu vaccine until October, November, because that's when the most updated vaccine is out, right? But we don't question that. Most people don't. All of a sudden, there's all these theories and all these scientists that are like that. We're just gonna call it complete bullshit. Whatever that question was, like, Christians can't get vaccinated because of the cells. That's a lie. I've never heard some shit like that in my life. But, like, let's also look at these vaccines that were made for specifically for COVID did not take any part of the virus itself. They were making antibodies, right? It's a completely different vaccine process. That's one. Two, if they're using cells, they're most likely using it's not aborted fetus cells. It is the stem cells. We all have stem cells. Your stem cells slightly die like once you become a full grown child or whatever the case may be, but they're still there. You can still use those. So these are nothing but excuses that I've heard for people. I just don't want to take the vaccine. If you don't want to take it, you don't want to take it. That's fine. But don't then, like, if you were that bad and you had all the balls or all the ovaries for the women to say I'm good, be good when your O2 stat is less than 70 and you can't breathe.
Do you
Don't
feel that way for all vaccines or specifically for COVID or just for all preventative care? So for example, right, I don't preventative care is going and women go, yearly for their pap smear, but you know what? I missed a few and now guess what? Now I have cervical cancer. Should I no longer be able to be a candidate for treatment? Should I die now because I missed a few paps?
Those are
No,
two
and
different
here's the
Because
things.
I
difference.
didn't have
Right,
the
here's the
preventative.
difference. Okay, so we're looking at the preventative piece, but we're looking at the pandemic piece too. Your
Right.
ovaries are your ovaries, right? I can't mandate that people wear condoms or use contraceptives or whatever the case may be. You're still, if you engage in the risk, then okay, you got to accept real consequences, whether it be pregnancy, STD, whatever. The
Okay, so
difference
if they
being
change
with
that to
COVID.
HIV or AIDS, right? So if someone has HIV or AIDS, but we know that you could be prosecuted if you know willingly or you know that you have it. We know that. But if unwillingly and you don't know that you have it, but you haven't took any preventative measures to take care of yourself, do you think that those people should not be treated?
No, you should still be treated because you don't know, right? That's just that's negligence. There's
But
a
we
difference.
all know that unsafe sex can cause you could end up with
Mhm.
AIDS. There's no difference.
The difference with
If
that and
if
COVID,
we're out here
with
shooting up with needles and we could potentially kill other people,
Mhm.
it's the same thing, right?
No,
It's
it's
not the
not.
same
It's
thing. The
not because those are
conditions are
all
Not the
those are
different.
same.
all individualistic behaviors. You choose to have sex with with whoever. Those are two individuals engaging. You choose not to be vaccinated and catch COVID. You are now harboring something that's going to impact everybody
Hmm.
because you're
Yes.
breathing. You're not just
Mhm.
gonna not breathe.
But if you get, so say you're sick, right? And you get the vaccine, you're supposed to be
Mhm.
protected if I choose not to.
No, I'm supposed to be
Not how
protected from
that
Okay.
these
works.
symptoms. That doesn't mean that it can't mutate. That doesn't mean that I can't spread it to somebody else.
Correct.
That doesn't mean I can't
Right. No,
spread it
you
to
could
children
spread
that
it,
I
but
work
what I'm
with that
saying, you
can't
should
get
be
vaccinated.
protected so that if I'm an unvaccinated person, let's say everybody else on the panel got vaccinated and I choose not to,
Hmm.
right? So at this point, let's, for the sake of argument, now you guys have herd immunity, everybody else is protected. I choose not to. You should be good, right? Because you
No,
took the
No,
vaccine and
because
we
if
took
I
the
take,
Not how
no,
that
if
that's
I
measures.
take,
incorrect.
but if I take that, it doesn't prevent me from transmitting the virus to
So
somebody else.
so I think the
right.
thing is, and I hate to say it like this, and maybe um so I'm an infectious disease program manager. I'm over COVID, HIV, all this stuff. So I hear this conversation all the time. I think that a couple of things that people don't understand is that this vaccine is not going to stop you from getting it. The purpose of the vaccine is to, if you should catch it, you are less likely to end up dead or in the hospital, right? We are now in a state where people who are vaccinated are absolutely coming down with COVID. The studies have showed, the statistics have showed, the data has supported that the people who are in the hospital in the ICU, like the reports came out yesterday, there was one particular hospital, 100% of them were unvaccinated. We are now in a state where we're having all these mutations. We spoke about herd immunity. We're not going to get there, and now we're having people who are already vaccinated and who've had their first and their second and their third um, vaccine. We're to that point because not enough people got their vaccine. So
Right.
now we're essentially having to start all over. And it's going to continue to happen. And those who are vaccinated are going to continue to get COVID because not enough people, when they were supposed to, got the vaccine. So because people took too long to get the vaccine, it allowed for all these different mutations to come. We're going to continue to have mutations because people don't want to mask up, people don't want to sit their asses down, and people don't want to get the vaccine. There's a lot of people saying, I'm going to do this research, I'm going to do this research. How much longer do you need to do this research? And I feel like a lot of people, oh, this doctor, this, like, and one thing I'm also learning is that not everyone really knows how to identify actual scientific research. So a lot of times people, instead of actually getting the proper source information for themselves, they're listening to their homegirl. They're listening to this. They're looking at what Instagram is saying. So I think that is how we've gotten into this situation. Um, I'm going to just kind of chill on this because I can go on a whole rant on this. But that is why we are in this situation that we are in. And when it comes to the hospital, I do. You made the choice to not go ahead and get yourself vaccinated. And the issue with the healthcare workers is that we are having to put off life altering medical care because people who were unvaccinated chose not to get vaccinated, not chose not to be preventative. When it comes to HIV, that is preventative. That is something that happens within your body. This is not something that is airborne.
Hmm.
So that's the difference between HIV/AIDS and COVID. So it's not the same.
Can we also just go back to like everyone's playing around and bullshitting, quite frankly, with this vaccine? Like, oh, it's my rights, it's my rights. The government can very well say this has now reached the level, and it's actually surpassed the level of like Ebola, and enact public health laws and start to incarcerate and quarantine people against their will. Then what are people going to do? Complain, oh my God, they can't do this to us. You had opportunity. You had every opportunity to do something. And instead it's oh my God, it's gonna cause infertility. You listen to like this bullshit, and I can't, like, it just pisses me off because it's bullshit. I don't want to do this. So when we get into a space where now everyone has to be quarantined federally and you can't do anything, who are you going to blame then? Whose fault is it going to be? That goes back to
And,
accountability.
and like even for states like, New York, even though they're not saying that you're forced, but you're forced, right? You can't work, you can't eat, you can't attend shows, you can't walk down the street, you can't do anything, but you're not. I mean, so that's ultimately forcing somebody to get vaccinated, right? Like that's why I'm vaccinated. That's why I have all the, you know, vaccines, boosters, and everything else because I like to attend concerts. Like I personally, without you forcing me to do that, like I'm going to go to a brunch, I'm going to go to a concert. That's why I'm vaccinated because you forced me to do so, right?
So if it's
Can't
that,
live without it.
but if it's that, well, you can live.
Oh,
Concerts
in
are
New
not.
York, in New York
Yeah,
specifically, you have to
but,
stay in your apartment. You can't do anything else. You cannot live in the city of New York. Can't participate in anything
but
without it.
concerts are not something you have to
You
do.
can't eat. You cannot go into a restaurant. You
You don't. You
cannot.
got Uber Eats.
It's a
So
choice.
So you have to stay home.
You can
yeah, you
do
got to stay
listen, you
home.
made
Yeah,
the
You
you,
choice
can't
to be
participate in
unvaccinated.
society without the vaccine.
So is that P? Is that a part of your point? And Sean, respond to this. If it's that, if I want to go to concerts in Burger King, if you really ain't standing on nothing, then why are so many people just not getting this shit? Because it is a lot of that. I want to travel. I want to go to Burger King.
That's the only
And
reason
Poop, I
why.
know you like Burger King. I want to go to Burger King
You know
and
what?
all this
Shit.
other shit.
Don't talk about your mama like
Shit.
So
that.
Well,
she on
to
here too.
answer your original question, I think they deny healthcare for multiple reasons, and if you want to add COVID-19 to the list, I'm fine with that. They make the public health orders and public health rules for a reason. That's to protect not just someone's feelings or someone's religious beliefs or somebody's personal agenda. That's to protect the people. So I'm all for that. Um, but as far as restricting people to access to where they want to go, that again, that aligns with your decision. If you decide I'm not going to get vaccinated, you've just decided you don't want to go to the gym, you don't want to go to restaurants, you don't want to attend concerts, and what you mean by who's standing on it? I mean, like I don't know what you meant by that. Like what I don't help me out with that. Give me some context. What
Me,
you mean?
me,
No,
me,
what do you mean
Sean.
by standing on it? Yeah, what do you,
Yeah, so a lot of times, like Poop said, people felt forced because they want to live life the way they used to, you know?
mhm.
So I'm asking, well, if it was just because you want to go to Burger King, then why you didn't just get it in the first place? Because a lot of people say, I want to travel. That's why I got it.
Yeah.
Right. So, but then why are they waiting so long if a lot of reasons mirror that? You see what I'm saying?
Well,
because a
because
lot
people don't really have the information. I mean, like to Alex's point, nobody knows how to read a scientific journal. So you can say I'm gonna do my research, but if you don't know how to navigate through medical records or medical journals, you're not doing no real research. I mean, these people are educated. They spend years in the profession for a reason to deliver news and to deliver information to the public in these pandemic type of environments. We can't pretend like we can do our own research. No, we're just reading somebody else's research. So when it comes down to it, if we're not if we're relying on our own personal feelings about not getting the vaccine, and then they say it's mandated if you want to go to Burger King, then you're not really standing on your own personal beliefs anyway. If you were that strong to say I'm standing on my personal beliefs, then you wouldn't have a problem staying in the house.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
again,
yeah.
and it just goes to show the scientific method, right? How many of y'all remember the scientific method? All seven
high
steps or
Nobody.
processes.
whatever.
Yep, yep.
I remember.
Right. So the fact that only a few of us in that, I mean, again, we learned it in high school, maybe even elementary and middle school, right?
Middle school, high
And
school.
unless you did science again in your college or that was one of your master courses, you don't really know that. But you would, if you knew the foundation of science, you would know that it's perfectly acceptable for things to change.
It's
The answer
test and
today
carry.
may not be the answer tomorrow, may not be the answer a month from now. But when we start to go into things with, oh, well, you said this on this day, okay, we still are testing.
Right.
But
So the
does
thing
that
is, I
negate you
think
from doing it?
the uncomfortability of most, most vaccines, it's usually like a 5 year, 7 year. So I think, and we know that COVID didn't just happen. Like this virus has been out and it's been tested well before 2019, right? And I think that's the uncomfortability. Like this, it's not just a COVID thing. I don't give my kids the flu shot. I'm not anti-vax. I let them get, my kids aren't going to get polio, right? I'll let them get that. But for example, Gardasil was something that was new when my daughter was young, right? She's 20 now, but it was a new vaccine, maybe less than a year old. We're pushing this on kids. Do you want your daughter to get the Gardasil vaccine? Well, do I want my daughter to be the experiment? No, but in 5 or 10 years, I'll definitely reconsider it, right? So if I had a kid that was a little bit after it's been out for a certain period of time, and now the research has been done, now I trust it. So I think a lot of people have that same kind of, well, I don't know, I'm not a scientist, right? Like I work in finance. I know nothing about science, but I do know for the people that are scientists, they need to take a few years to figure it out, right? They're going to do some things. It's not going to work. They're going to have to figure it out to get it right. I don't want to be part of the first stage.
I think the
I'm
funniest
cool with
thing,
being stage 10.
Just not stage 1 through 5.
Yeah, stage
right?
1, I'm not cool with. I'm cool with stage 10.
And
That
Alex,
means you've done the research, you worked out the kinks, things are smooth sailing. Sign me up.
so Alex, and you can go. So Poop, yeah, I get it. But then you heard Chris Brown was coming to town, and then you got doped up.
Listen.
But whatever. Go ahead, Alex. What are you saying?
I was gonna say to her point, and I remember with the Gardasil, and that's something we do now in healthcare. It's regular. I think the conversations that I try to have when I'm speaking to people is, why not give yourself that opportunity, give yourself that insurance get to be protected. That's for that. And I think the thing that makes me laugh the most, or maybe just the realm of like work that I'm in, I'm just like, people will really go ahead and, like, I hate to be explicit, but people are eating foreign people's ass that you don't even know, having sex with this person unprotected, eating from this place, eating from that place, but y'all scared to get the COVID vaccine. Mind you, we've been taking vaccines since we were little. We can't go to schools. We cannot send your kids to camp, to daycares, whatever the case is with it. You cannot travel to certain countries unless you have vaccines. So it's wild to me. I think with people, I don't necessarily think it's forced. I think to Sean's point, I agree with him in saying that, okay, well, you made the choice not to get it. That's fine. But we're also going to follow our rules from our businesses, and you can't come up in here if you are not vaccinated, because that's done to protect their employees. That's done to protect their people and their money and so forth and so forth. So it just always makes me laugh when I see people like, y'all don't want to get the vaccine, but y'all out here coming into my space of work with this STI and that STI and that STI, but you don't want to get the vaccine. Like, it just doesn't make no sense.
Let's
Yeah,
not talk about the people catching trick. Like, that still exists.
I honestly don't even think any of that matters. To be honest with you, like, we all have choices to make. Like, some women choose to be natural, but they eating shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, you don't want to put a relaxer in your hair, but you're putting mess in your body. So I think what it really boils down to is that we all want to have our own choice to do what we want to do. If we don't want to take the vaccine, then that's fine. You don't have to take the vaccine. But I absolutely believe that if you're choosing not to take the vaccine, then you're also choosing not to go to the hospital or be admitted into the hospital first. Like, there's going to be other people that take precedent. My partner, she's in respiratory care and she's exhausted every day. She caught a COVID last week, and all she keeps talking about is all of the COVID unvaccinated people that are coming in. Granted, both her and I were anti-vaccine. We didn't want to take the vaccine ourselves, but to live life, we had to. But I respect people's decisions not to. But the reality is, if you choose not to, then you're not going to be able to be an active part of society in one way, shape, or form. You're going to be ostracized. You're not going to be able to work. You're not going to be able to do things with your kids or with your family. And I think it's a risk, that unvaccinated people are taking. But I think what the lens that we're talking about is more so like Black people. We have a distrust for the government, period. So we're not going to trust anything the government says. We're not going to trust anything the government does. And the vaccine for us hasn't been around long enough for us to trust that it's efficient and that it's effective and that it's going to work in our best interest. And
But we
so,
trust
yeah.
government stipends.
Oh yeah, because that's money and green is
Easy.
green.
And I
Fish ain't
think
get that either.
I want to get Brian and Q's thoughts on this real quick, but I think everybody made a valid point that we put Gucci on our back and McDonald's in our stomach quite often, you know,
Mhm.
and so this is kind of similar to that. Q, what you think?
We're in Tarjay's finest.
Okay.
So should people be denied health care if they are unvaccinated? Deathbed and all that, right, P? You
No, I
said
don't.
Deceased.
Put him in the fucking bedroom.
Amen.
go ahead.
No, I don't think that they should be denied um, because they refuse to take the vaccine. Um, if they're wanting healthcare at that point and they're going to pay for it, just like any other paying citizen, then fuck it, get the medical care that you need to get back on your feet.
Should they have to
I don't
pay out
see
of
where the
pocket?
two or pay out of pocket. I don't see where the two really kind of go together. It's almost like how the people who say if you don't vote, you don't have a right to have an opinion. Like who came up with that?
You don't.
You
Yeah,
don't.
well, the problem
That's
is
what I'm
is
saying. Who came up with that?
the,
You
the
don't.
problem is the excess of COVID patients in the hospitals are taking the beds. They're taking all of the beds, so there's
So
no
can I
bed.
can I give a real life example, right? So in the ED last week, in the emergency department last week, my emergency department only has 33 beds between 4 units, not including the behavioral health unit and like fast track, which is like patient first, right?
Mhm.
We had 450. We saw 450 patients register to be seen. Of the 450, 75% all had COVID. All of them got beds. We
Hmm.
were maxed out of our ICU. And I want to say like it was a very small percentage of maybe literally 4 or 5 patients being one family was vaccinated. Everyone else was unvaccinated.
So I have a question. So out of those people that got beds, were they severely ill to where they needed to be hospitalized, or were they being just seen and treated for their positive COVID?
So some were seen and treated, but the ones so of our 33, we had to convert 2 of our units into an ICU and
Okay.
then find other like we so my hospital operates in like different codes. So code orange, we have to like we're pushing the limit at what we have. Code red is like divert. We ended up having to divert to other hospitals in the area. But every hospital in the area is doing the same thing.
Right. So I guess my question, where I guess where I'm going with it is like, if we know, like we know that hospitals are also money grabs just like everything else, right? So if I come in and I'm positive with COVID, you're going to get a stipend, or you're going to get more money to treat a COVID patient. At least I don't know about in 2022, but in 2019 and 2022 you were paying out more for COVID positive patients. So if I come in and I'm positive, if I'm COVID positive, for example, all of the walk-in clinics were completely filled. You couldn't get COVID test anywhere in Connecticut. So if you had symptoms, you couldn't go anywhere to get yourself tested. So if you really, really needed to, even if you did all the things you needed to, you've been, for example, I'm using my daughter as an example, have all of her vaccines, including booster, she had to go to the emergency department to get COVID testing. My question to you is, are you keeping those patients? Are hospitals abusing the system and
So
keeping
I
these patients for billing purposes, right? So is there an inflation of numbers, or are people, and I don't know because I don't work in healthcare, so this is a true question. Are all of these people that you're saying are taking beds, do they actually need beds? Are all of them, or can these people be diagnosed and sent home?
and
I think
so
there's a
to your
combination of
point,
going.
there I can only speak for my hospital, right? I can assure that we're not inflating anything. The people that can be sent home can be sent home. We've built tents outside of our emergency department. We have COVID tents to deal with the people that we're seeing. Again, if you're testing positive, but your stats are good, meaning your body is moving oxygen and maintaining oxygen, you're not having any like dire needs. So QD comes in, I want to say 1 through 4. One is the most severe, right? One is the one any trauma, you're gonna get emergency care. 4 is like, okay, here's a band-aid, sit outside. They come in all ranges. The ones that are being hospitalized are the ones that are going on the ventilators. The ones that, you can't lay down because you cannot breathe. You can't make
Okay.
that up.
So you're
And we also Mhm.
so just to concisely make the point, you're saying that they're getting people out, right? Like, so if they're not one or two, by and large, they're
They're
giving them
being shipped out.
prescription, making sure that everything's copacetic, and turning them over.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to get some final
So
thoughts on
I
it.
think
Mhm.
what it sounded like you guys were trying to imply was that those who have chosen to not get vaccinated shouldn't take priority. But
Mhm.
the question that Hamp asked, no, I don't think anybody should be denied health care.
I disagree.
Agree.
I think when they come down with some sort of government mandate, it won't be dissimilar to anything else that they mandate. You got to be 21 to drink. That's federal law. You can't go past a certain amount of weeks to get an abortion. That's law. These are medical standards that they've put into our society that we all understand that you violate, you short. So if they come down and say, if you're not vaccinated, and sorry for you, good luck, treat the symptoms at home. I think it won't be any different than any other regulation that they put out.
I also think it comes to the point where everything else we've talked about, abortions, HIV, again, affects the individual. You have to have intercourse or be sharing a needle, right, to infect somebody. COVID is public health because you get it, I get it, we get it, everyone gets it. And there's nothing you can do outside of take preventative measures to decrease that risk. And so if you choose not to, you do not then have the right to say, "Oh my God, look at that. I
Mhm.
have symptoms. Let me come here." No, you were bad. Stay home.
Do you think that it is, Brian? Let me ask you on P's point. Do you think it is socially irresponsible if people aren't getting vaccinated, but then they're having COVID longer, right? Being viral longer, and therefore they're giving it to other people.
Do I think they're being socially irresponsible? Well, my whole take with the COVID vaccine is we have to examine why a person doesn't get, why a person would choose to not get the vaccine. From speaking with several people, all of them actually say they don't get it because one person said something about something theory. I really can't remember. Um, but a lot of them don't get it because they don't want something in their body. You know, again, I mean, it all comes back to personal choice. Um, I guess that would be socially irresponsible. I would like to say at first, when you asked that question, I was like, yes, we should make sure people have health care. After listening to Alex and Pierre, I believe that's his name, to their point, they've changed my perspective on it, as well as Sean as well. They've changed my perspective on it. It's funny that you mentioned this because earlier today I was thinking about the vaccine. I was about COVID, and I was like, when will this end? Um, and from listening to them, they opened up my perspective that reality is this has to end some way, some shape, some form. And Tamara, if I pronounced her name correctly, if not, I'm sorry, but she
Slim
was
is
giving
cool. Slim
several.
is cool.
Okay, Slim, to give to piggyback on some of the examples she was saying, but again, all that is sexual intercourse, all that is a choice you choose to make, as opposed to COVID, it's airborne. So what we have to realize is eventually it boils down to if you don't want to get the vaccine, you're affecting everyone because this is airborne, you have to breathe. So, I mean, eventually it would be in a person's best interest, I would think, to get it. Um, I'm also always shocked and amazed at people who say they won't get the vaccine because they don't know what's in it. Well, I mean, you're eating out every day or you're cooking every
Yeah.
day,
They
but
eat
you
a
don't,
big rib. Yeah.
right. But you don't know what's in the food that you're buying at the grocery store. You don't know what's in McDonald's, Burger King, whatever there, but you still eat it because the shit tastes good. But you don't get the vaccine because you don't know what's in it. Okay, so that's bullshit. So, and I'm not saying that because Pierre said it or Alex said it, but that's always been my take on it. I mean, I like soda. I don't know what all is in soda, but I know the shit is good. I like alcohol. I don't know what all is in Remy, but I know the shit is good for my stomach.
Right.
Makes me feel warm inside.
Yeah,
Wow.
What
Give
you a
you a little
pastor?
personality.
Be you a pastor, a reverend, or something?
I'm changing my title, Reverend B.
Hey man. I appreciate it. It's an interesting topic, man. I'm surprised. I'm not surprised, but interesting that a lot of people kind of say, if you choose not to get it, then that's,
And
whatever happens is on you, mortality and all that. So interesting, interesting, interesting. All right. I need to share um this video for the last topic. 1 second. 1 second. There you go. All right. Here it is. Not you, Sean. You ain't really say shit. And
Final thought. Black women, submit to your man.
That was
yeah. So
he woke Isha up.
Yeah, finally. Goddamn bangs over her eyes, Sean. She started drooling. That's how I knew she was asleep. Yo. So B, your first time on the show. The final thought didn't have shit to do with the show. So, a matter of fact, let me do this. Let me do this. B. So, can you you was capping? You wasn't capping, was you?
No, sir. No, sir.
Take the cap off, baby boy. So, can you expound on your final thought, if you don't mind?
So, in terms of that, what I have noticed is in the Black community, amongst a lot of the married Black women, you have nowadays a lot of Black women that want to wear the draws in the relationship. Where when we look at it from a spiritual perspective, that's not the order in which God would have for it to be in. When I first met Hamp, one of the things that Hamp
no. Hey, you gotta stand on your own too, cuz.
But listen to what I'm saying. Just listen. Okay. One of the things he would always say is the order is God, Jesus, husband, wife, kids. And when we incorporate that in the biblical from the Bible, that is true. I just see a lot of women nowadays, like a lot of the way that some of these women run their household and talk to their men, I would never tolerate. I'm also the type, if it works for you, it works for you. I mean, that's just what you want. But we have a lot of simps, we have a lot of beta males today. And again, a lot of it goes back to us not going by the order. Women want order in everything, but it comes down to the men. We want order. Hell, a lot of us just don't get it.
Do y'all deserve it?
Because y'all don't know how to do order.
I knew that was coming. I knew earlier today when I got on here, someone was going to say, well, he doesn't deserve it, or, he's a beta man.
It has to be something
earned. Is that order? Is that the order? The Bible doesn't say if he doesn't deserve it.
So you're just entitled to it?
I changed my mind. I changed my mind. The Bible is setting us back. When it starts talking about the Bible, it has set us back.
She
No.
Like, even as a sub, that doesn't make sense. You have to be comfortable, or you have to be able to be secure in your position for somebody to trust you, to allow you to lead, right? So I've talked about this before, and some of you guys made faces about what I was saying, probably because maybe I just didn't articulate it properly. But in order to be submissive to anyone, male or female, you have to be trustworthy. And it's not just meaning like, oh, I'm just some dummy and I'm giving up my power and I'm just going to lead you blindly, right? Like, if you don't know what you're doing, I'm not just going to follow you into some bullshit. You got to know what you're doing. Now, if I'm comfortable in that, then naturally, I'm going to trust you to make certain decisions. I'm going to trust you to do certain things. And that happens naturally. But what happens some in the Black community, sometimes a lot of our men don't have the skill because they either weren't taught it, they weren't raised in the environment to have these skills of leadership. And so if I say, okay, you know what, I am willing to submit to you. I want to follow your lead. Now, can you do X, Y, and Z? And now you over here looking stuck because you don't know how to fix a tire, you don't know how to budget a damn account, and now we homeless, and I'm riding around with the fucking spare with the yellow shit just riding down on my.
But you followed
Right,
your
but I
man.
followed you.
Follow
Like, I'm
order.
not
Stuck
riding
beside him.
around
Follow
on my
order.
spare tire. Now, if you know how to do all these things,
All right, let him respond.
I am 100% down for submission.
All right. So obviously y'all are taking what I said.
Isha, you up next. Go ahead, B.
Obviously y'all taking what I said and turning it into something funny. Obviously,
no, this is
This ain't funny at all.
Okay. Can I finish?
Go ahead, B.
Okay. Okay.
Go ahead, B.
All right. Okay. But what I'm saying is, y'all didn't know none of this before you married the man. Like, there's this one lady that I know.
Hey.
She's saying we dated since the 7th grade. He's not a leader. You didn't know this from the 7th grade up until now.
Well.
Put him in the fucking bedroom. Get him out of here.
Not according to the men that were on that previous conversation. That said,
Hold on, P. Isha up. She stopped believing in the Bible and all that after these said that. And then P, you could jump in, bro. Trust me. Go ahead, B.
No, I really do think that women should submit when they have something to submit to. So you have to be a man that's able to lead.
Right. Everybody lead.
What you doing makes sense, then okay. But if not, somebody got to step up.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not talking about like boyfriend girlfriend type deal. We talk about husband and wife, right?
Yeah, that's what I was about.
Married woman, right?
Right.
Okay, so we married. If you're not doing what you're
Right. So
supposed to do,
so to B's point, if you are married and you're already committed to this person for the rest of your life, for better or for worse, to death do you part, why is it difficult to submit to that person who you've already committed yourself to? Regardless of what
mental health takes a turn for the so let's say when you got married in 10 years ago or 5 years ago, whatever it may be, you're saying that people don't change, especially when people get, no matter what stage in life, you should be as a person evolving, right? Sometimes people don't evolve for the better.
I agree. But I think
So
submittance isn't giving everything to a person. It's submitting. So when people say submit, I feel like people don't understand that doesn't mean you don't have an opinion. That doesn't mean you don't have any input.
Right.
I don't run my relationship like that. I would hope that there's a common understanding, that there's a conversation before a decision, right? But the submittal is someone deciding, I'm gonna go ahead and give you creative control over this decision. So I feel like when someone says submit, I think people assume that they don't have a say so, they don't get any input, they just have to tuck tail and roll with whatever decisions are made negatively. And I don't really agree with that, because I don't think that's reality.
No, that's not what submission is, though.
Well, I agree, but I think that's what people think it is, because it seems like people, I can't say anything, I can't do anything. My husband run the household and I don't have any input. I don't think that's real life.
So that would be my question first, like, because we all say the woman should submit. What is not everyone's definition, but I guess this question will be for B. What is your definition of submission?
I mean, I would incorporate it from what the Bible says, and it's going under the leadership of a man who is in Christ. That would be the best point that I could describe to answer your question. I wouldn't say submit is being under the control, like some Ike and Tina Turner type stuff.
So just to clarify, because I just want to make sure it's clear, because we referencing the Bible. So one of the first commandments of the Bible, the third commandment, if I'm not mistaken, talking about from Genesis, Deuteronomy, as the commandments come, he told Eve, and for all women, you will have pain in childbirth. Her duty shall be to your husband, and he will rule over you. So the word there is rule over you, right? So when you're talking about Corinthians B, he's getting that from that. So he ain't meaning it exactly how you saying. He's saying
Right,
God
right.
said this. So there is a facet of that. Just if you reference in the Bible, I just wanted to clarify that
Well,
point.
if Adam was leading as he was supposed to, Eve wouldn't have ate that apple.
Okay,
We
but
wouldn't be where we are. So if he
okay,
was leading
but
and being
dang,
mindful, if he was quote unquote leading and being mindful and running his household or whatever the case is, Eve wouldn't have been over there by the apple.
no, y'all are comparing apples to oranges.
Well, he
That
talked
doesn't
about
no.
Adam and Eve. He brought in the Bible.
So I normally rock with
Bruh.
y'all on
See,
that.
that's
But
but
like,
that's
that's not
why
it.
Nah.
that's why I asked the
Apples and
question.
oranges. That doesn't change what the Bible says. We as blacks always want to add and take away and
I'm
subtract and
not
divide and
disagreeing with
multiply.
y'all. I'm just
That
saying.
doesn't change. That doesn't change what the Bible says.
So if we take the Bible out of it, I think what Q's question to you, like you try to use the Bible as a crutch. What's your view of submission? Like
But
take the
you,
Bible out. Like what's your view? So you're
but
saying
you,
that you want a wife that submits. Don't use the Bible as a crutch. What do you expect from your woman?
how can you not incorporate the Bible in that?
Well,
I don't.
even biblically, what does that mean for you? What would that look like for you?
I mean, it will look more like, okay, so let's say if, I'm a Christian, I'm in the church, whatever, and I'm dating a lady, and I say, okay, I believe that right now, the best thing for us would be to move to Hawaii because I got a job out there and it's going to better us financially. The house market is better out there. It's going to be better education for the kids, etc., etc., etc. She should trust my leadership and my judgment to be like, okay, for one, he's not going to do anything that would endanger me or the kids. All right. And two, she should have enough faith and trust in me to make that move.
And are you the sole breadwinner in this scenario?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would be the sole breadwinner. That'd be fine by me. Huh? I would have.
No, I know that it's fine, but you don't mean that it's happening. Okay, you might be broke in this scenario. I'm just saying. Does she make more money than you? So if you say, you know what, I got this job in Hawaii. Meanwhile, she's making twice as much as you, right? So now your imaginary spouse has to give up her
You want to throw
role
in
to
daggers?
lead you to just follow your lead into this position. She doesn't have any job opportunities as of yet over there. I'm sure if she
You gotta change your name to Caveat Slim. You gotta change your name to Caveat Slim. He ain't say none of that. He said
I mean, that's
better.
what
He
I'm
said
saying.
better
They want
education,
to add and
better
subtract.
environment.
He said better education. He said a job. He said he took a role there. Did
Yeah,
I
he
not
said
hear that?
better. He said better housing market, better education for the kids. So you're saying, what if she made more money?
He, in addition to him saying better job, better school, it was he took a job opportunity there.
Uh-huh.
Did I
Well,
mishear that?
Yeah, he
yeah.
took
So
a
let's
job that was. Eddie, you
So he
could
took
let's
jump
the
just
in,
job.
but
So it's him taking the job, right? So it's him taking the job.
but
I'm assuming
we're
that
saying
his
is,
spouse
why
is
did you
also
add that
working,
other
so
shit
she's
yeah, I
in
know
there
getting
you
though?
the
added. We don't need to add nothing else. Like his story is enough.
They said
right.
the girls can't work. It don't matter. They said you
Right.
gotta pack
Go
up your
ahead,
So the
Caddy.
200K
point of
job.
I
it,
mean,
I understand.
Caveat
I heard
Slim.
all the other things, but the main piece of this is how y'all gonna live, right? So his thing is he took a job there. I understand better school district and all that. I heard that part, but the main focus is he took a job. So if his spouse, I'm assuming that this is a 2-income household, what is her job
Why?
like?
Why though? Why are you
Well,
assuming
if it's
that
not,
this is
but then
his
if it's
scenario?
not, but
This
if
is
it's
his
I
not,
scenario
know.
though. Yeah, this is his scenario.
because
You
it
can't start
matters.
adding shit in his scenario. He playing football. You can't change his shit to
B,
soccer.
Because
be
the whole point
appropriate
is
for
if he
him?
doesn't, if the
What?
wife doesn't have if you're talking about a woman that stays at home, then you just follow him. But if there's a person that's contributing to the household and you follow him blindly, then y'all might be homeless if her income matters.
But that's what I'm saying. Listen to what I said in the beginning. She would trust me
There's
to
a
know.
rider to all of it. There's always a stipulation.
I have a
I
question.
think what's happening is
Wait, all right. Hold on. All right. Let's
There's always
bring
a
it back in.
stipulation.
Let's bring it back in real quick. So, Caddy, Isha, Alex. All right, that's the order. B, you good? You need niggas to jump in, or you all right?
I'm
All
good.
right. All right, go ahead, Caddy.
Yeah, just taking B's scenario for like face value. If you're dating a young lady, she has kids or whatever, y'all been dating. It depends. Well, one, I honestly do think it depends on how long y'all have been dating. One, there's multiple factors that goes into making a big decision like that, and having a woman, if she has kids or if y'all have kids, having her follow your lead. So there has to be demonstrated ability and capability for her to trust your leadership in moving her and your kids or her kids or whomever's kids to another location. So yeah, I don't think that it's healthy, or I don't think that it's fair to expect a woman just based off of submission to just follow a man just because a man says, hey, let's get up and go here. I think this will be a better opportunity for us. I think that it still qualifies for a conversation around it, and history has to show and prove to her that she can trust you and following your lead on this decision.
Would you think submission is fair, Caddy?
I think submission is fair. Why not? I mean, I think there's a negative connotation tied to submission. Submission works both ways. So it's not even just about women submitting to men. Men should also submit to women. We all have our roles that we play in the dynamics of a romantic. Oh, Ham, don't start that shit. It's too late.
Agreed.
Okay?
It's a two-way.
Put him in the fucking bedroom. Get him out.
I'm done.
It's a two-way street for sure.
So, Ish, what you think?
My question was just for B, in your scenario, does the man just decide that the family is just going to up and leave and the woman has to follow because that's a mission? Or is there a conversation with her and saying, like, this is what I found, what do you think? And then are you guys deciding together?
So I could say for me, I'm the type of guy, I'm not a selfish person, so I would at least consult it with her. Like, I mean, it would be a little selfish. You come home from work one day and be like, okay, now pack up all the stuff you moving right out here. I mean, throw it on the last minute. Okay, okay, that's a little selfish. But the ultimate decision, it should be left up to me. I mean, that I do feel like when we look at it from a biblical perspective.
Right.
Women should be seen and not heard.
No.
Right. So why y'all acting like my question is so outlandish? It matters what the wife does. If she doesn't do anything, then you can move. If you have something going on, you can't leave that behind.
It goes back to Sean's point. Is submission fair? I mean, is that fair?
I told y'all, sis gonna have to pack up that job. Put your.
But why you keep referencing the Bible anyway?
Because
like you don't fornicate. Like don't pick and choose when you want to follow the Bible just because it's the point that you're trying to make.
So whoever's not married.
How you know he's fornicating?
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. I haven't referenced the Bible until it came down to this point. Other than that, I think the Bible majority of the podcast.
Yeah, man.
So is she no longer submissive if she says no and she doesn't agree with your point?
Now, what I would also say is there are factors I would factor in. Like, let's say she can't move to this particular pace.
No. Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Repeat your question.
Is she no longer submissive if she says no? I don't want to go. Or I don't agree with what you're saying. Is she no longer submissive?
Well, no, that doesn't mean she is no longer submissive, because then again, like I was going to say, what about the underlying factors of why she could not probably move?
What if she doesn't want to?
Like a
job. Don't do it, B. Don't do it, B. Don't.
If she doesn't want to move,
factors,
what's going on?
If she isn't going to move, then she isn't submissive. It's really cut and dry, and I don't believe it's fair. I don't believe it's fair either.
It's not fair.
Submission isn't fair, because if you're deciding to allow another person to have that much sway, influence, say so, persuasiveness, then it isn't fair, because you're gonna lose on your personal opinion. So it's not fair.
Submission does not mean that you have to go with your partner's decision every time. That's just like saying
that's not what I said. That's not what I said.
But that's what you're saying. That's exactly what you said.
No, that's not. I didn't say every time. I said this. Submission isn't fair.
No, before that.
Point, with her scenario, when adding in, now what if the woman makes more money, right?
It's an
important. You then have to submit.
Well, that's the discussion in your household. Your husband and wife have to come up with, does her high salary equal a better outcome for our family?
Right.
She says, no, I'm the breadwinner. I pay these bills up in here, and we ain't going.
And
Right.
if everybody's miserable because she's the breadwinner, then is that a beneficial outcome?
No. So
Who's
even if the
everybody?
spouse, let's say his spouse is the
His
breadwinner,
broke
but
ass.
she just truly believes in whatever he has going on, that also can work. Like, listen, I'm willing to leave my job, but do you have a solid plan? Like, right? So you'd have to prove that it goes back to being able to prove and be trustworthy that you have a solid plan. Am I willing to be like, okay, well, I'm going to give up this job, even though I know that it feeds me, you, and our kids, and I could follow you over to Hawaii to take this job.
That feeds
So that's why it's
you, the kids,
important
and better
if you're
education.
in his scenario where he's saying that it was his wife and they have these kids in this imaginary family, on whether or not the woman
Oh
works or
my
not.
god. Y'all gonna
I
fuck
don't.
around and catch you a Ralph Angel and be wrapped up in some shit and lose your farm because you want to be submissive.
Right.
Not me, sir.
I've had conversations with women who said biblical women who are submissive wives who said that if their husband choose to bring them into like debt and all that other stuff, even if she knows that he's heading down that road, she would pray about it, but ultimately it's his decision.
See, that's why I'm praying. I ain't messing with that.
Keep your bank account separate.
No, ma'am. I keep my submission to kink
She
only.
said
not
she gonna
biblical.
pray about going into debt because her
Yeah.
husband is carrying her into debt. She gonna pray
Praying
about
about
it.
his
No one didn't say be stupid. Okay?
praying about his
One
direction
at a
and
time.
leading the family, but
Listen. One at a time.
because he is the husband, she's submissive and she's gonna follow him wherever he takes the family.
Oh, poor choice.
So she said, just to clarify, if he take them into debt, in the depths of hell, she going with him.
I don't think she's going to hell.
She gonna ride for hers.
I'm gonna stick
But
beside
as a
him.
submissive wife, and that's the title that she's holding on to, if she wants to change his mind, she's gonna do it through prayer.
Yeah, and just to clarify, the hell is a hard place, right? So people who know the Bible, remember Jonah, he said he was in hell when he was in the belly of the whale. So hell is just a hard place. So if the husband just brings them to hell, she said that she gonna pray about it and go with him. Is that what?
She gonna follow her husband because he is the leader. He makes the final decisions.
That's a real person.
The husband with
Yeah, but that's submission. That's
But
submission.
he doesn't have leadership skills.
But at the end of the day, a real man wouldn't lead himself or his family into debt.
That's
Again,
not true.
you all are thrown.
That's not
in
true.
these
Tell
debts.
that to all the broke ass niggas around here. What are you saying?
No, that's not true. You making bad decisions doesn't qualify you being a real man.
Right.
Right.
That's not a qualification of a real man is not making bad decisions. You're going to make bad decisions. You're going to make bad decisions in your relationship. You're going to make bad decisions in your marriage. The point is, what are you going to do about it when it comes down to making bad decisions? Are you going to come out of this financial debt that Easter was talking about, bringing them down like that? Then that's a conversation you have inside your marriage. But if she's choosing to ride with him because maybe she hopes that he'll turn it around, they'll find a solution. That's still submitting, but that doesn't mean she's crazy.
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
It means she can't pay them bills.
Crazy.
If she's only praying about it and she ain't making no extra payments,
I think that's a little crazy.
I don't believe in just praying it and sending it off to the wish
pray
list.
about
Like,
it.
that's not real, right?
Wait, I'm confused at the question at the bottom. Submit on their job. What do we submit
So,
to?
so to read it out, people submit on their jobs all the time. Does it make you feel inferior, or are you accepting the role? Submit who you are is what you do. So I guess it's saying you have a boss, right? You would be your boss's subordinate, right? You often offer your opinion, but bosses will give directives and mandates that you'll have to follow, even some that you do not agree with. And we do it all the time. Do we walk around saying, my boss got to prove it to me? Have they proved it? We all been under bosses that they only was the boss because they was there first. You know, we have some incompetency, but we still accept our role when we go into that construct.
And what I
think that was the point of that
this
question.
current generation is people that are willing to get up and walk away if it doesn't sound right to them.
Exactly.
Right. So I think for us, where we were taught, you stay on the job, you get a good job, you know, work for the state, or you do this, you do that. As long as you make 100,000 and you're a 10%, right? Like people talk. these 10%ers are talking like they 1%, like they could talk that Kevin Samuels talk. He's talking about 1%ers, not 10%ers. That's
No,
number
he's
one.
talking about 10% by and large.
He's talking about 1%, 500,000 and up.
No,
ain't
no.
he talking about
He
not the
yeah, he
100,000ers.
references the
Yeah, we
10%.
talking about the
People that make
100,000.
The
100,000
100,000.
is middle class men, right? So
Yeah.
we're
No,
like
$100,000.
Yeah, that is not middle
No.
class.
that's upper middle
Mm-mm.
class.
Mm-hmm. How
That's
much is
poor.
So 40.
Middle
So
class.
That's
the
poverty.
average.
Right,
Well, to
it
set
is.
let's
That
set let's not now when we talk, if we want to have the facts, let's do the facts and then we can go back to our opinions. But the average man makes 41K, right? So if you're
the
100,000,
average
that's
man or average
significantly
black man?
Yeah, we're
black
average
men.
men.
Sorry, men is 50. Men, I think men overall, when you incorporate white men, I believe, but I know that for black men, it's 41. Hold on.
What
So it's
black?
Where
41,
is
right?
this?
Where are these black men though? Because
Everywhere.
I don't
So
know no black men that make $40,000. I personally don't.
yeah,
Oh, there's
when the
definitely,
Amazon
I mean, we know
Amazon
that they
guy drops
exist,
the
but is that the majority? I don't think so.
yes, it's the majority when there's a 100,000 Amazon workers, right? Those
These
count as
niggas is
black
working
men. I know
overtime
we
and they
forget
making at
about
least
them.
90.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at
They are
15,
still black
right?
men, and they only make $15 an hour. So
Yeah.
the
So
majority of black. I mean, it's just real.
Yeah, and
If
also
it's sad, it's sad.
consider where
if it's
we
not, but
live
it's real.
too.
I
But
have
Also
I got
consider
we
where
ins-
we
I
live.
got a question. I got a question on people's opinion though. Did everybody watch King Richard?
No.
Not yet.
No, y'all ain't watched King
That
Richard.
for
Watch
next
King
time.
Richard.
They
So
want
What's
to
the
watch
name?
it and
my
use it for
question
next
is, King Richard's wife was submissive. She disagreed. She fought back. She gave counsel, and she was still submissive. Is she weak?
no, she's
Absolutely
not
not.
weak.
Submissive
Is
women are
is
usually the
she wait
strongest women.
Is she only weak because they won in the end because they had two daughters that turned into millionaires?
So
Is she
I
only
didn't see this. I didn't see it. I can't speak for
I've seen
anybody else.
it.
I haven't seen it. But submissive women are usually stronger women. It
I
takes a lot
agree.
of skill, takes a lot of strength to be submissive. So
I agree.
submission does not equal weakness by the long stretch.
so what's the
But that's
problem?
but that's
I
typically
think there's a
the
difference.
opinion though, because people push back on being submissive because they don't want to be viewed as weak. They don't want to be
Yeah,
their
that's it.
grandmothers.
Submission is not weakness by the long stretch. It's usually the stronger woman that's submissive.
I would think that would be immature thinking, right? So
Yeah.
there's a difference between being submissive and being stupid. You can be
Correct.
submissive, like for all the reasons that y'all have talked about, right? It becomes stupidity when you know that these things are going wrong and you still stay, or
Right.
you let go of
There's some
yourself so
dumbness.
much that there is nothing. And that's the issue that I have with it, is like it becomes a slippery slope. Because if you lose yourself, what's the boundary for you and your body? What's the boundary for you and your personal values? Because at the end of the day, we are all human beings. We are all individuals. Submissive, whatever the case, that's great. But at what point do you lose yourself? And at that point, do you stop?
Mhm.
I don't know if losing yourself is part of the equation. I think in the structure, if we still sticking on what a structure is with kids involved, that's the benefit of the family. Am I, as a man, willing to lose myself for the benefit of my kids? Yes. So I don't know what lose yourself means.
It's different, but it's different when you're at the top of that. No, it's not a sacrifice. Losing yourself, and it's different. You're not going to understand it because you're at the top of that hierarchy. I'm talking about the power. The power dynamic is very different. You can't say you're not a woman, right? You're not going to be submissive to a, I don't think, but like, you're not going to be submissive to a woman, so you're not going to know what it is to say, like, I'm standing my ground and this is what it's going to be. When men are asking for women to be submissive, and a lot of them are entitled, like, you're supposed to be submissive to me because of the Bible, but you don't know how to do shit because your mother took care of you, because your girlfriend took care of you, the girlfriend after that took care of you, your side piece took care of you. You don't know how to take care of yourself, but you want the woman to be submissive to you. That's an issue.
And
But
can't
she
do a
married
goddamn
him.
thing.
She married him.
Again, but she also could have married an image.
Right.
Well,
Women, there's a lot of potential.
I mean, that's just confusing to me because if you choose to marry somebody, these things should be vetted. Yes.
Yeah, that's
So you're thinking
Yeah.
that somebody
Yeah.
can't switch it up?
Conceal.
Can't conceal, can't switch it up. Yes, they absolutely can.
What is
They
that
absolutely can.
Tyler
But
Perry movie where the guy came out and he
oh, that was crazy.
those niggas, them. I don't know the
Sorry.
movie, you know the movie, we all know the movie. Those niggas. So she felt like, you know what? He's a good guy. He treats me right. I feel like I'm entering this relationship where I could trust this man, right? And people can flip a switch. And I understand that that reference is a movie, but it's also reality for a lot of people, right? You fall in love with this image, you fall in love with whatever the person presents to you, but then real life starts happening. Bills start piling up, children start coming in, and then responsibility starts happening. It's all fun and games. People could handle going out on a few dates and y'all having fun and y'all going on vacations and you're having sex a bunch of times, but then kids come and then bills come and then all these other things come, and can you handle all the extras that come with responsibility? And a lot of times people fold. And so men that can't handle all these extra responsibilities, they fold, but they still want this woman to submit. You can't lead all the extras. You have to be able to lead all of it, not just the fun shit.
Yeah, I don't know how that's
You lead to
measured. I don't
Vegas,
know.
you can lead me to on a trip, but can you handle when true
When life happens. When life
true life
happens.
happens? And a
Yeah.
lot of
So
times when true life happens, if the man cannot lead, you can't still expect for a woman to follow you into just like
Oblivion.
turmoil.
yeah,
I,
okay, I think
I,
that's fair a little bit, but it's unrealistic that it's hitting the fan, right? And he can't falter at all. Then the women that he's with, see, I told you, right? That's why a lot of black men are hesitant with being vulnerable with our women, because then you guys, right? So God forbid COVID hits and we lose our job, right? And we have a inkling of weakness, right, or vulnerability when we're between a rock and a hard place. What, y'all gonna turn on us, right? With a
No,
process, and like you,
That's not the same
that's
though.
not the same because you know what, everybody. So you
wait.
can have a
I'm
down
not. No,
moment.
no, 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 no. You gotta let me finish, right? So,
He about to mute
so
us.
you said there's an evolution too, right? So when it gets hard, right? Sometimes we might have a moment, right? Afforded that, right? We gotta be perfect, damn near.
There's grace. There's always grace. We just talked about that because we're taught grace. So I
that's
mean,
not
black
true.
women know
There,
grace, so you
there,
can't
there
do
isn't
that.
there isn't always grace. Not
No,
all black
not true.
women extend grace to black men. This is why I really stand firm on. I hate the term submission. Like, why can it not be a partnership? As you journey throughout a relationship, someone's going to be strong and while someone's being weak, and
Right.
then a situation might incur where that power dynamic shifts again,
But
and
I
it's
believe it's
okay.
dual.
It's okay for a woman to carry a man in a relationship every now and again, and it's okay for a man to carry a woman if necessary. But why does it have to be this standard of a position throughout the entire relationship, where a woman just listens to a man the entire duration of their marriage or
I
relationship? Why does it have to be
100%.
the criteria
Yeah.
for it to be what it
It's a
is?
dual submission. I believe in dual submission because men at some point submit to their woman, whether it means like, for example, Ham's a DJ. I'm sure that he checks in with his wife where that wasn't always the scenario for him, right? That's a submission. He doesn't have to. It's not because she makes him do it. It's a submission. It's a sign of respect. Hey, I'm here a little bit later. It's still a form of submission. So that happens. I think it's dual. So we're not talking about just 100% men do whatever the fuck they want to do and women just have to follow along.
Hmm.
It's a dual partner.
Yeah.
In your case, I think it's just a matter of wording, but it's dual. Like men submit and women also submit. But I think they just use different words. I think they say partnership
Mhm.
instead to make them seem more manly, but it's the same
Well,
shit.
no. I think it's a courtesy and a requirement, right? So because we have the twins, I'll be like, "Hey, you good? This is what's going on," because the twins be kicking ass.
Prior to the
You know
twins,
what
you
I
didn't check
mean?
in.
No, as a courtesy, I may say something, right? But if I'm in the DJ, I'm gonna DJ, right? I work
No,
all
we're not
day,
talking about
any day.
working. We're not talking about
We
working
talking
because
about
work is
DJing.
work.
You
No,
seen
we're
that
not talking
DJ?
about work. We're talking about you could pack up. You don't have crates anymore. You
But
fold
you
that
said
laptop up.
DJing.
You could be home in 30 minutes.
But you
So
said
if you're hanging
DJing.
out a little bit extra, you're gonna say, hey, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. You're still gonna do that check-in. That's a
You know,
form of submission.
DJing is work though. DJing is work.
DJing is work. Anything after you close your little laptop is no longer work. If you go and get breakfast, if you're hungry, if anything extra past your shift where you're earning money, you're going to check in. And I'm sure that happened prior to you having the twins. You've gotten breakfast before, I'm sure.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm a
I
grown
mean,
up
you
too,
can't tell me
and
that
I'm a
you ain't checked
man.
in with her.
What do you
You
mean?
I was
can't
gonna
Like,
wait
tell
for
me
you
like
to
you
what?
ain't
lie.
checked in.
Like what though? I don't understand.
You
Like,
checked in. And that's
huh?
a form of submission.
Nah,
Don't act like you ain't just start checking in when Nori and them with Nori and what's the
no.
baby name?
I check them quite often. Eat Nova. I don't know who baby
Nova,
that is,
there you
but
go.
so
Don't do that.
Baby London.
but not. I yeah, it's different. I'm checking on her. Like even like one time something happened with my car. I don't call the house. I don't need your help. That's not what you there
It's not
for.
about needing
It's not
help.
about
It's about
needing
checking
help.
in to let them know where
Ho
you are.
ho.
It's a form of submission.
What I just said is my car something happened. So I didn't get home until hours later. But I handle that. You know
So
what I'm
she ain't
saying?
even call you for hours?
She
She was
didn't care
asleep or
about. She
something.
said, "Fuck your life."
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? She
If
might
somebody ain't
tap,
checking on you, ain't come home.
but it's just a point that as a man, like I'm not. I don't need nobody to. I don't need her to check on me. I don't need to bring any extra stress to her. That's not her job.
How is that bringing stress
Submission
to
isn't
her? She
about
cares about your well being the same way you care about her well being.
right.
Because what she can't do nothing to help. See, that's the thing. We don't compute it the same, right? If Sean broken down on the side, he might to your point let her know, but he ain't asking her to come out there and no shit like that. While on the other way around, we on the way. We gotta be on the way. We gotta have a remedy.
Right, but again, it really is
That's
just
not the
it boils down
submission.
to respect
Right.
dynamics within a relationship. You're gonna respect your partner by or your spouse by saying, hey, something happened, I'm good, but just letting you know that I'm gonna be a couple of hours late, and that works
Right.
both ways. That's not just from a woman to a man, but that also should be from a
It's
man to
just
a
yeah.
woman.
And
And we're
I
also
think
not saying calling for
respect and
help.
submission is
Right.
is a synonym.
Also, poop. My laptop costs $3,000. Ain't no little laptop. Just,
Or
You
the
did
big
try
O,
that.
the big O, the big O. You know what? I apologize because I hate when people use little as a reference. So your big old laptop.
Q, what you think, man? B, you want to get like in your rightful?
Oh
I don't
no,
give a
I'm
fuck what
good.
these niggas talking about. Q, what you think, man? You in the corner with your nose in the goddamn camera. What you think?
I know, I know. You got the jokes going tonight. Now, I just wanted to let everybody else get theirs off first, but I believe that in every household there should be a hierarchy. So, in that,
Mm.
to Brian's point, the man should assume that top role within that household hierarchy. But to almost every woman's point, well, not, yeah, almost every woman's point in this panel, including P, no disrespect, I also feel
We
that
know
you
you.
have to be somebody that's worthy of assuming that role. And I think that that's an issue within the Black community is that, there's a lot of women that don't have somebody that they can submit to within that hierarchy. So I think it goes both ways. Like, I think women should submit within that hierarchy and understand that that household should have a hierarchy, because if you're at the top, then you basically in a lesbian relationship. But if he's able to assume that top role, then yeah, submission comes with that. And in my opinion, submission is the ability to follow someone else. So again, to some other people's points, you would also have to submit in some ways as a husband, because you understand that that's a form of leadership. like every good leader knows that they must also follow. So, but again, not in a way that like you became a bitch all of a sudden. You definitely don't want to lose control. Not control like Ike and Tina Turner control, but a sense of control of your household. Because at the end of the day, when somebody come knocking on that door at 2 o'clock in the morning, that woman is not gonna go to that door to go answer it. So in that moment, she understands, oh, I'm not the head of household. So
Yeah.
that submission should take place. I feel in that order: the husband, the wife, and then the children. Because even in that scenario, say someone's at the door with a gun, he gets shot. The kids don't then step up to the plate. The wife steps up next to protect her children. So,
That is
just my opinion.
I agree with you, Q. I really do. But I think what isn't talked about enough, to your point about a man being in position to be a leader, he has to know how to follow. I think women, on the same regard, have never had to follow anyone or submit to anyone. They have no practice at it. It's not practical for them. So when they get to an age to be in a relationship, it's just as difficult for a woman to submit as a man with no experience to lead. So there's a mutual
I
grace
agree with
that's
that.
supposed to happen on both ends. And it typically doesn't until you butt heads with your partner and y'all go through some things and learn each other a little bit more. But that's something that isn't talked about as much, is that women don't have practical experience being submissive. So it's a learned behavior that there's no skill set that's in place for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I agree. I
I
think
think
it goes
that's
both
fair.
that's a
ways.
great point, Sean.
Hmm.
Hmm.
That's a good point, man. For once, Sean, you don't make that many good points. So when you do, I want to make sure I acknowledge it
Every now and then.
every now and then, right? And then when Caddy start yelling Billy D and all that shit, I know you're
Oh, I almost
terrible.
did.
Listen, so put it out there. I'm gonna tell it. Sean, it was Sean idea, B, to put you front and center. So
It was. It's a
it's
good topic.
interesting. Yeah, it's awesome. And it's a lot of back and forth. I hear Caddy and I kind of know some of her sentiments, but you have a issue with buzzword. Like the words get you
Buzzword,
going,
yeah.
like
Yes, I mean, what you
submission, like
saying? What are you really saying? If you're not saying what you really mean, then re-articulate. Like,
Yeah.
because some of
Most
these
of the
words are
words
really
so
strong.
are
Like,
synonyms,
qu-
so they're synonymous.
question. Yeah, maybe we got to use another sentiment for it to be more question. Do you think a wife should follow her husband, no Caddy? Like, right, the construct. If he is a leader, right? Let's just say that. Should a wife follow her husband?
yeah, no, I absolutely think so. And to Sean's point, I agree with him. Some women don't know what that looks like, and that was my issue. I was married before, and my ex husband was an alpha male, and I consider myself to be an alpha woman, and we just butted heads. Like I just could not give him control. And a large part of that had to do with how I was raised. I was raised in a household where I saw my mom lead. Even though my father was in a household, my mom really was the one that took charge. So that's all I know. I've learned since then that that's not the way it should be as far as the hierarchy construct. But you have to learn. And a lot of times you have to learn through experience in order to know. But what I also know is, even in that marriage that I was in, some of the things that I was being led to do, nah, bro, like you're not about to do
Yeah.
that. We not about to do that. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Right.
like you still have to, as a woman, you still have to know what's right versus what's wrong. And there's a balance in trusting your husband's leadership too. And it's okay to question it. It's okay to question it. And a man should be okay with a woman questioning the way forward that he's kind of instructing us to go. Now, at the end of the day, if a woman feels like her man should have the final say, then so be it. I honestly feel that it should be a joint decision. That's just my personal opinion.
Questions. Two questions on what you said.
Hmm.
Should she question her man or ask questions?
Oh, ask questions. Yeah,
Okay, 'cause I just wanted to, because
yeah,
questioning is kind of like
different. Yeah,
doubting. Yeah.
right.
And then
No.
Now, did you see your mom leading the, like, was she, bringing you guys the lessons and doing you guys homework and getting you guys ready for bed and telling you guys what to do, or was that what you saw by like instruction? Because if so, that makes sense based on the hierarchy.
Yeah, but it wasn't just that. It was how
Okay.
we moved. When we moved from New York to Florida, it was a decision that my mom made. So there were a lot of things that a lot of people would say, oh, well, a man should have made that decision that my mom did. So and my father trusted it. We trusted it as kids, and we moved in that fashion. So I don't think that, and my parents are still together, 38 years married. And so I don't think that it necessarily requires a man to be an alpha male and a woman to be super submissive in a marriage for it to work. That's why I say it's all about a partnership. It's all about how um, that dynamic works within that partnership. I'm in a same-sex relationship, and both her and we balance each other out. I submit to her on certain things, and she submits to me. When it comes down to certain things, I know what my strengths are, and she knows what my strengths are, and vice versa. So we just kind of balance on that scale.
Question. You said doesn't necessarily have to be an alpha male. You consider your dad a beta male?
Yeah, my dad a little beta. He a little beta. Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's okay. They
And
exist. I mean,
it is
they can
okay.
create a space for them, right?
Yeah.
There's not only alpha
He ain't a
males in this
simp.
world.
Don't be calling my daddy no simp. Him. He ain't no
Right.
simp.
That doesn't make him a simp.
I
It's a
ain't
space
say. I
for
ain't
beta.
say.
You have to create a space for them. And so if you find your partner or your equal that could counter, like, okay, well, I'm a beta, and you find a woman that might be an alpha, that's going to work for them. But you can't
Out
have
there,
two.
poop. Are there men out there that would say I'm a beta male?
I don't think people just walk around and say I'm a beta or I'm an alpha. I don't think that's a real thing, but I think they just display their behaviors, right? So we know people that we know men just aren't naturally leaders, and that's okay, but you can't expect for a woman that wants someone to lead for that to be a successful relationship. They just have to find their person.
And I feel like we have this conversation amongst the Black community. We don't never have this conversation as it relates to white people, because there's a lot of beta white men that allow their alpha white women, white
There's a
wives,
lot of
a
alpha white
lot,
women.
a
White women
lot.
run their household.
Yeah, yeah,
But I
and
also
it,
think
and
it's
it
an
works.
archaic thing. Like it's really specific to the Black community that goes back
Yeah,
to the church. Like we're talking
yep,
about the Bible and then the church.
Before
But
church, it
again,
goes back to slavery, because when men were stripped, and so the women had to step up, and we get that. We understand. We don't have to go back into us as Black people to understand what that means. But you just have to find your partner, right? We can't demand something from somebody that they just don't have to give,
yeah,
and browbeat them and be like, hey, I want you to be this alpha male. If they're not, find somebody else.
Hmm.
Don't make some man that's a beta
Slavery.
man try to beat them into an alpha man. If that's not who he is, that's not fair to him,
and
and
that's the
vice
same
versa.
thing with a woman. Like,
And
don't try
as
to beat a
vice
woman into
versa, you can't
submission.
ask this woman to be submissive if she's a strong woman. This strong woman needs to go find her a beta male, and they will live happily ever after, and vice versa. Find your person.
Yeah, I don't know if I would ever, in a hypothetical, want a woman that's energy calling herself an alpha woman.
Yeah.
I just don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I
That's
agree.
not for you,
What do you
right?
think? What do you
Because
think, Sean?
you're just an overall person that you just conquer, right? Like, I've been in scenarios with you. We're family, right? And I remember days when you were doing your DJ and shit, like in your mom's rec house, or the random place downtown Middletown, and the old ass white man, and you like, nigga, if you talk to her again, I'll shut the whole fucking party down. And I'm like, nigga, I'm not your girlfriend. We family. Like, this old man that's 80 years old should be able to talk to me. And like, you don't gotta punch the old man in the face, but that's just your natural. Like, I'm not even your woman. We're not in a romantic relationship, but that's just how you lead things. So that's your personality. So we know you're gonna relationship, family, whatever it is, that's how you lead. That's just you as a person. right? It doesn't even matter if it's a romantic partnership. You did that with me.
And
I
Pierre
mean,
too.
Cause Hamp's that nigga.
Right. But that's just how you lead. But that's not how, like, somebody else might not see any problem with the old man talking to me about, oh yeah, I know Hamp. You said, nigga, don't talk any questions you have for her. You talk to me. I'm like, Hamp, you don't gotta be crazy with the man. He's 76 years old.
All right, poop. God damn.
I
All right.
know.
Yeah.
You
But
like going in.
point being is that
Right.
if you naturally carry that, you can't expect that from all men because that's who you are. That's the
That's
point.
that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. I like the fact that you made a concise point for once. Matter of fact, let me give you some. Sean, you about to say something?
Well, to your point about the woman being an alpha woman, I mean, we talked about a little before. The alpha comes with responsibilities and consequences. You know what I mean? That's typically something that isn't projected evenly across the board. You know, something goes wrong, men burden the shoulder of responsibility for. But when something goes wrong, and a woman who is considering herself to be an alpha woman, be that as it may, the responsibility of the burden doesn't share itself the same way.
Hmm.
I mean, that's
Because
true too.
of yeah. God
Just
damn,
because, just
Sean.
because
Hey,
it's
Sean. Hey, boy. You on your
Also,
shit. It's
if I had the flames,
I
yeah,
mean, you know,
facts, man.
the longer we go, the more I got for you,
You
man.
warm up, my man. You drinking that root beer over there. You getting so Ish, I'm about to come to you, but I want to ask B a question. B, so when you saying women should submit based on what the Bible says, as a man, you deem yourself ready to take all burden and responsibility, to take all the repercussions that come with it, to die for your wife and die for your children. You ready for all of that? Because that's what comes with leading a family. Like men, one, I think that those have to be the prerequisites of being a leader. And do you think all men would assume that mantle? Maybe not you specifically, but do all men actually assume that mantle? Kind of to Poopy's point.
Well, to answer your first question, yes, I would say I'm ready for that because of past life experiences that I know personally I've gone through. We don't have to get into all that because that's just personal things. Would I say
Yeah.
all men? You said, do all men have that mantle? Is that what you say, mantle?
Yeah, like because we say it's an order, right?
Right.
Based
I
on
wouldn't
what the
say.
Bible says.
I wouldn't say all men exhibit that mantle or have that requirement in them. No, I wouldn't say that.
But the Bible doesn't say if he does these things, he should be given. It just is pretty blanket. So do you
Well,
think that
that's
if he
true.
doesn't have it that I deem necessary, that's just when I right, so we can have the conversation. Should he still be deemed a leader? Because the Bible is just straightforward. It don't, no
Based
qualifications.
off, I would say based off the Bible and based on what you just said, if that's the case, then yes. When we look at it from a biblical perspective.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we was solid. I didn't want you to be no windshield wiper. I hate when motherfuckers go back and forth. Ain't that right, Isha? So the Bible. But do you think that there are prerequisite requirements for for a man to be a leader, or do you think? Because I know that you a believer of the Bible that we should go based off the precedent set there.
Yes, I think there are some prerequisites for a man to lead me. Um, we've been at this for 2 hours. I'm tired. But I think he has to pay like he weigh. Like you can't lead anything if you're not making no money. That's a prerequisite.
So Alex, is a man's leadership tied to his bank account?
No, I don't. But summing it up because we have been at this for some time. And me and my household, I'm in a situation where my husband leaves, and I allow him to leave because I trust him. I trust his judgment. I don't believe that he's going to steer me wrong or steer us wrong. That's a choice that I made for us and our household. And I think that in any event that we also have a rapport where if my husband feels that I need to step in, he knows and he trusts that I can do that. I do agree with Caddy. I'm not really crazy about the word submission. I'm very big on words, but I also think it kind of riles up things when people don't necessarily understand the definition of submission. I do believe in relationships, people go ahead and maybe one situation you're the lead of it, and then the next situation you're not. There's that. I do also believe that being an alpha and a beta in certain instances and situations, you have to be that. I feel like for me at work, I am the lead, I am alpha, but when I come home, I don't want to be that. And maybe the same for people who have children. Maybe the mother or the woman is the alpha in the situation when it comes to dealing with the children. I think there's room for both. But like I said, as for me in my house, my husband leads, and I'm okay with it.
Awesome, awesome. Listen, man, y'all motherfuckers just, I'm impressed. You know what I mean? I don't really fuck with Jerry Springer, but I am a fan of one of his constructs. Final thoughts.
My final thought: get the vaccine.
Okay.
It might save your life.
Respect. Oh shit, slide it. Come on, computer.
Shit. Make sure your nigga resume, make sure he can lead before you follow.
Absolutely.
Make good choices.
Make good choices.
We can't hear. You're on mute.
Oh, my bad. Appreciate y'all and shit. Checking the bitch and shit. But no, one of my old leaders was a youth pastor from Chicago, and he used to say, "You can't lead where you don't go, and you can't teach that you don't know." So, so yeah.
That's a gem. If I could slide this motherfucker over. Come on.
Submission is not a weakness, but it costs
I
money.
like it. Jesus. Tied to money, huh? God, this shit ain't sliding. Let me do something else.
Oh, sorry. Men need to learn how to lead from a place of love, and women need to learn how to submit from a place of understanding. That's my final thought.
Okay.
I think you shouldn't follow anything blindly, whether it's religion, men, women, relationships. Use your judgment.
Alex.
My final thought is do your part, get the vaccine so we can get out of this mess and we can stop using up these hospital beds in the emergency room. Please and thank you.
Black men use wisdom, knowledge, and intelligence. Find the right person for you. Find the one that's going to submit with all those skills you put together.
Yeah, I think Christianity sucks, but I think the Bible is the truth. I think that it sounds real good when somebody comes in and they can't breathe and they don't have the vaccine. I doubt that the people that work in those fields, because they got such big hearts, are gonna let them. I think it sounds atheist in the foxhole. I think there is a hierarchy. God, Jesus, men, women, and kids. I think we should adhere to that. But men, you have to be able to hold it down, right? So when shit hit the fan, we don't get too fold. And if you need to have good friends, right? And like P says, make good choices, and you lean on them. But very rarely do you want to bring to your wife, right? Especially when you have children, because she's the leader of them, right? And we're built in a particular way to sustain, you know. So when you love her, trust her, she's your wife, you can be vulnerable with her, but you want to make sure that you know bear the weight. You want to be as Atlas as much as you can. So Ski, tell a friend to tell a friend, like, share, subscribe, and we out.